October 22nd, 2014, the White House. An intruder is on the grounds. He's sprinting towards the front door, and inside, the first family has no idea they're in immediate danger. Secret Service agents are chasing him, but the man is fast and he's closing in. Between the intruder and the President of the United States stands one last line of defense, and he's a 70-pound dog. In the world of elite protection, one breed stands apart. A dog so smart, so driven, and so fiercely loyal that it's become the guardian of choice for the most powerful person on the planet. This is the Belgian Malinois, the razor-sharp sentinel of the United States Secret Service. For decades, these incredible animals have formed a living, breathing shield around the presidency, a final, formidable line against any threat you can imagine. They are world-class athletes, thinkers that can solve complex problems, and warriors with an unshakable devotion to their mission. But among the legends of this elite unit, one name is spoken with a special kind of reverence. A hero who, on one fateful night, faced a direct threat to the White House and didn't just meet the challenge. He became a symbol of courage for the entire country. This is the story of a black Belgian Malinois named Hurricane, the dog who single-handedly stopped an attack and became the most decorated canine in American history. His story isn't just about one night of valor. It's about relentless training, an unbreakable bond, and the untamed spirit of the world's most elite guard dog. To understand Hurricane, you first have to understand the machine he was built to be. The Belgian Malinois is not your average dog. This is a breed that was forged in the fields of Belgium for herding, but it was perfected for the brutal demands of modern warfare and high-stakes protection. The United States Secret Service began integrating these dogs into their protective details around 1975. And since then, the Malinois has become the cornerstone of their K9 units. The reasons why are written in their DNA. A Belgian Malinois is a masterclass in controlled power. They're incredibly fast, hitting speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, which lets them close the distance on a threat in the blink of an eye. Their senses are just as sharp. With a field of vision that spans 270 degrees, their situational awareness can rival electronic surveillance systems, but it's their mind that truly sets them apart. Often called one of the most intelligent dog breeds, the Malinois has a problem-solving ability and a capacity for learning that is second to none. This makes them exceptionally trainable, but it also means they need constant mental stimulation. These aren't dogs you can just leave to their own devices. They need a job, a mission. This relentless drive, as trainers call it, is the engine that powers them. It's an insatiable need to perform, to please their handler, and to see a task through to the end, no matter what stands in their way. This drive is exactly what the Secret Service looks for. They need a dog that will not quit. A dog that, when faced with chaos and violence, will push forward, not run away. The selection process for these canine officers is just as tough as it is for their human counterparts. Puppies are identified with the right temperament, a mix of confidence, sociability, and that all-important drive. Once they're picked, they start a grueling 20-week training course right alongside their designated handler. This is where the dog and human become one unit. The training covers everything from sniffing out explosives to advanced apprehension techniques. They learn to tell the difference between a curious tourist and a genuine threat. They're socialized to stay calm and gentle around crowds and even kids, but they're also trained to flip a switch to high alert in a split second. Their bite isn't just a bite, it's a trained technique, a bite and hold designed to subdue a suspect without lethal force, allowing human agents to safely make an arrest. The world saw just how effective this breed is when a Belgian Malinois named Cairo was part of the SEAL Team 6 raid that took down Osama bin Laden. These dogs operate at the absolute peak of military and law enforcement operations all over the globe. They're the four-legged equivalent of a special forces operator. And within the Secret Service, they are part of the Elite Emergency Response Team, or ERT, the tactical unit that counters direct attacks on the White House. These aren't just guard dogs. They are living countermeasures, sent in when all other layers of security have failed. They're chosen for their short black coats, which help them handle the Washington, D.C. summer heat, and for their unwavering focus under pressure. It was into this elite world that a young, determined Belgian Malinois named Hurricane was born. He joined the ERTK-9 unit in 2012, partnered with a handler named Malinois. Together, they would train, patrol the White House grounds, and wait for the day they hoped would never come. The day all that training would be put to the ultimate test. For the men, women, and canines of the Secret Service, being vigilant isn't a job. It's a way of life. As Officer Marshal Miraki liked to say, security is 99% hanging out waiting for something to happen, and 1% something actually happening. On the evening of October 22, 2014, that 1% arrived. The sun had set over Washington, D.C., and the White House was lit up by security lights. It was around 7:15 p.m. Inside, President Barack Obama and his family were home, completely unaware of the drama about to unfold on the North Lawn. The White House perimeter is a massive barrier, a symbol of American strength built to keep threats out. But on this night, it was breached. A 23-year-old man from Maryland named Dominic Adesanya jumped the fence. The second his feet hit the lawn, alarms started blaring. Uniformed division officers immediately started closing in, their commands to stop cutting through the night air. But Adesanya was determined. He was sprinting, not just randomly, but with a clear target, the North Portico, the front door to the president's home. This wasn't just a random act. Adesanya had a history of erratic behavior and had been arrested at the White House complex before. Authorities knew who he was, and his own father had worried about his mental state. But right then, his motives didn't matter as much as his actions. A man was running, unchecked, across the most secure lawn in the world. This incident came just a month after a much more embarrassing security failure, where another fence jumper not only crossed the lawn but actually got inside the White House before he was caught. The agency was under a microscope, and its director had even resigned. There was zero room for error this time. As agents closed in, the first K-9 was deployed, but a secret service dog named Jordan was released. Jordan was a powerful, trained Malinois, and he did his job. He engaged the intruder, but Adesanya fought back. News cameras captured the shocking scene as the man in white shorts started kicking and punching the dog, fighting off the first attack. He managed to get past Jordan and kept running toward the residence. Every second that ticked by brought him closer to the front door. Human agents were running, but they couldn't close the distance fast enough. In a situation like this, a person's top speed is no match for the explosive acceleration of a Belgian Malinois. The first dog had been assaulted and bypassed. The intruder was still moving. A decision had to be made. On the lawn, Officer Marshal Miraki watched the chaos unfold. At his side was K-9 Hurricane. They were the next line of defense. The first attempt had failed. The intruder was violent and resisting. The president and his family were just yards away. The command was given. The moment had come. Miraki unleashed the storm. When Marshal Miraki gave the command, Hurricane exploded into action. This wasn't a training exercise. This wasn't a drill on some pristine field at their Maryland training facility. This was real. The air was filled with shouts, the grass was slick, and the target was a violent man who had just attacked another K-9. For a Belgian Malinois in the elite ERT, this is the moment they are born for. All the training, all the discipline, all the controlled aggression gets channeled into one single purpose. Hurricane flew across the North Lawn, a 70-pound black missile homing in on the threat. He closed the distance in seconds, a blur of pure intensity. He slammed into Adesanya with the force of a linebacker. His training took over. He latched his powerful jaws onto the intruder's arm, getting a grip that was nearly impossible to break. The goal wasn't to maul, it was to control, to push the suspect back, get him on the ground, and neutralize the threat until human officers could take over. But Adesanya did not go down easily. What happened next was a display of both shocking violence and incredible canine courage. With Hurricane's jaws locked on, the intruder began a frantic and brutal counterattack. He punched Hurricane. He kicked him. In a move of pure desperation, he lifted the dog completely off the ground and swung him violently through the air. Just imagine that scene. A 70-pound dog being whipped around like a rag doll, taking powerful blows from a grown man. For any other animal, the pain and shock would have been too much. The instinct to let go, to run, to save itself would have taken over. But Hurricane wasn't any other animal. He was a United States Secret Service K-9. His handler, his dad, as Marshal Meraki would later say, was behind him, and his mission was absolute. He would not let go. Despite the brutal assault, Hurricane held on. His jaws stayed locked. He took the kicks, the punches, the dizzying feeling of being swung through the air, and he kept driving forward. He was the anchor, the immovable object holding the line. His tenacity bought precious seconds for the human agents who were now swarming the scene. The whole brawl lasted only a few moments, but it was a lifetime of violence packed into a few seconds. Finally, Hurricane's relentless pressure paid off. He dragged the intruder to the ground and pinned him. The attack was over. The threat was neutralized. Armed officers descended on Adesanya and finally took him into custody. The silence that followed the chaos was punctuated by the heavy breathing of men and dog. Hurricane had done it. He had single-handedly stopped an intruder just yards from the White House. An intruder who had already fought off one dog and was violently resisting. He had put his own body on the line, taken a brutal beating, and refused to fail. He had stared down a direct threat to the presidency and had not flinched. He had proven, beyond any doubt, why the Belgian Malinois is the ultimate guardian. The storm had passed, but it left a permanent mark on the White House lawn and in the history of the Secret Service. In the moments after the takedown, as the adrenaline started to fade, the cost of Hurricane's bravery became painfully clear. His handler, Marshal Meraki, rushed to his side. The dog's black coat was matted, his body covered in bruises and blood. The kicks and punches had taken a severe toll. Meraki was shaken, later admitting he'd never seen that kind of violence toward a dog and feared Hurricane might not survive. His supervisor saw the state the dog was in and immediately ordered Meraki to get Hurricane to an emergency vet. The canine hero's health was the top priority. Both Hurricane and the first dog, Jordan, were rushed for medical care. Jordan was treated for minor bruises and was quickly cleared to return to duty. But Hurricane's injuries were worse. He was badly banged up with cuts and deep bruising. The bigger concern was the underlying damage, an injury to his hip that would cause him problems for the rest of his life and ultimately lead to his early retirement. Yet, even in pain, Hurricane's spirit was unbroken. The next day, the Secret Service posted photos of their heroic K9s to reassure the public. And as a special reward, Hurricane got a rare and much-deserved treat: cheeseburgers. It was a simple gesture, a moment of normal after a night of chaos, and a way for his handler to show his immense pride and gratitude. For Marshal Meraki, the incident was life-changing. He'd always known Hurricane was a special dog who excelled from day one. But what he saw on the North Lawn went way beyond training. It was raw courage. "I basically had a dog that was willing to die for me," Meraki later said. "He knows Dad is behind me. Do not let this guy get to Dad." That realization forged an unbreakable bond between man and dog, a connection that went far beyond their professional roles. The injuries Hurricane suffered that night marked the beginning of the end of his career. While he recovered, the hip problems lingered. He served for nearly 2 more years, a testament to his toughness. But the physical toll was undeniable. On September 20th, 2016, K9 Hurricane was medically retired from the United States Secret Service. For a working dog like Hurricane, retirement can be tough. These are animals bred for a mission, who live for the daily grind of the job. But Hurricane's retirement came with a silver lining. He was officially adopted by the man who had fought beside him, the man he had protected with his life, Marshall Meraki. The partners would stay a team just outside the high-stakes world of presidential protection. Meraki has said retirement was a blessing, letting him see a whole different side of his partner. The ferocious guardian of the White House lawn became a loving companion, a dog who could finally just be a dog. He had earned his peace. Hurricane's single act of bravery on the White House lawn did not go unnoticed. In the years that followed, he was showered with honors, building a legacy that would make him the most decorated dog in American history. The awards weren't just symbolic. They were a real acknowledgement of the critical role canines play in our national security. The recognition started almost immediately. In 2014, the U.S. Secret Service gave both Hurricane and Marshall Meraki its award for meritorious service, a major internal honor. But his heroism was recognized far beyond the Secret Service. In November 2015, Hurricane received the Department of Homeland Security's Secretary's Award for Valor. This was a huge moment. It was the first time in the department's history that the award had ever been given to a canine. He was no longer just a dog. He was a decorated agent of the United States government. The accolades kept coming. In 2019, Hurricane became internationally famous when he was flown to London to receive the PDSA Order of Merit. This award from a British veterinary charity is often called the animal equivalent of a knighthood, and recognized his incredible devotion to duty, cementing his status as a global icon of bravery. Perhaps the most significant honor came in March 2022. In a ceremony at the U.S. Capitol, Hurricane became the very first recipient of the Animals in War and Peace Distinguished Service Medal. The award was created specifically to honor his unique service, proof that his actions had set a new standard for recognizing animal heroism. This achievement, among his many others, landed him a place in the Guinness Book of World Records in 2023 as the most decorated canine in the United States. The White House itself officially called him a true American hero. His story was no longer just a Secret Service legend. It was a part of the nation's history. Deputy Chief Richard McCauley of the Secret Service summed it up perfectly. "I believe the intruder would have hoped Hurricane was not on duty because from that day on, he will know to not mess with a man's best friend." Hurricane's long list of awards are the physical proof of his incredible legacy. They are medals not just for a dog, but for a hero who stood his ground and protected the heart of American democracy. Hurricane's story really highlights a critical difference at the White House, the one between a professional guard dog and a presidential pet. They might both be dogs living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but their roles, training, and very nature are worlds apart. Presidential pets are a long-standing tradition. They're companions that give us a little glimpse into the personal lives of the first family. More than 30 U.S. presidents have had dogs, from George Washington's hounds to the Obama's Portuguese water dog, Bo. These animals are family members. While the Secret Service's duty is to protect the first family and, by extension, their environment, agents aren't officially tasked with walking or directly protecting the pets themselves. In recent years, we've seen the challenges of having untrained, even if beloved, pets in such a high-stress place. President Joe Biden's German Shepherds, Major and Commander, were both moved out of the White House after multiple biting incidents with staff and agents. It's not a new problem. Franklin D. Roosevelt's German Shepherd, also named Major, was a former police dog who also had to be sent away after several biting episodes. These incidents just go to show that even a dog with some training isn't ready for the unique pressures of the White House. The constant flow of strangers and the tense atmosphere can be overwhelming for an animal that isn't specifically conditioned for it. This is where the Belgian Malinois of the Secret Service are completely different. Dogs like Hurricane and Jordan aren't pets. They are professional officers. They are picked for specific genetic traits, high drive, stability, and intelligence, and then go through thousands of hours of specialized training. Their purpose is simple: security. They are trained to be totally neutral in most situations, unbothered by crowds or dignitaries. But they are also trained to activate with controlled, decisive force the second a threat is identified. A Secret Service. Malinois is taught to engage, subdue, and hold a target, all while ignoring distractions and injury to themselves. Hurricane's actions in 2014 are the perfect example. He was violently attacked, but never once backed down from his job. That's not natural animal behavior. It's the result of elite conditioning and an unbreakable bond with a handler who is a partner, not just an owner. While a presidential pet might bark at an intruder, a Secret Service K9 like Hurricane acts with the precision of a trained soldier. They are a non-lethal force option, a critical layer in the White House's security. The story of Hurricane, the decorated hero, versus the stories of presidential pets being rehomed for aggression perfectly illustrates the gap between a beloved family companion and a deadly serious presidential guard dog. One is there for comfort, the other is there for combat. Retirement for Hurricane didn't mean a quiet life on the porch. For a dog with his drive and smarts, staying engaged was key. Under the care of his handler and adoptive dad, Marshal Meraki, Hurricane went from being a guardian of the president to an ambassador for all working dogs. Meraki made it his mission to give Hurricane the best retirement possible, a payback for the dog's selfless loyalty. They traveled the country and even went overseas, attending charity events and award ceremonies where Hurricane, the ferocious protector, would calmly and gently interact with kids and his many admirers. His story had touched so many people, and he became a living symbol of the courage of law enforcement and military K9s. This new mission led to a powerful legacy. Inspired by the fact that Hurricane's medical bills after retirement were covered by a New York charity, Meraki wanted to pay it forward. He knew most retired working dogs don't get financial support for their vet care, even for injuries they got on the job. So, he founded the non-profit organization K9 Hurricane's Heroes. The charity helps provide medical care for retired law enforcement and military dogs, making sure they can live long, healthy lives after their service ends. The organization has already helped hundreds of retired K9 heroes. Hurricane even got his own social media presence at Hurricane_K9, where his retirement adventures were shared with a loving online community. He enjoyed his days playing with his favorite toys and going on adventures, living the good life he so richly deserved. As the years went on, age started to catch up with the hero dog. In February 2025, at the age of 15, his health was failing. Knowing their time together was coming to an end, Meraki arranged for one last special journey. Hurricane made a final visit to the White House, the grounds he once protected so fiercely. There, his former Secret Service colleagues gathered to honor him, presenting him with a plaque and an American flag in a moving ceremony on the South Lawn. It was a final salute from his brothers and sisters in arms. On February 18, 2025, surrounded by Meraki and a dozen of his former colleagues, Hurricane passed away peacefully. His passing was announced by news outlets and even the White House, which mourned the loss of a true American hero. Though his watch had ended, his story, his courage, and his legacy of helping others would live on forever. The story of K9. Hurricane is more than just the tale of a heroic dog. It's a powerful testament to the spirit of the Belgian Malinois, a breed that embodies loyalty, intelligence, and courage. He was born with potential, but it was his partnership with his handler, Marshal Meraki, and the elite training of the Secret Service that made him a legend. On that October night in 2014, Hurricane was the living embodiment of the thin blue line. He was the final barrier between order and chaos, between the safety of the first family and a determined threat. He faced down brutal violence not with anger, but with a singular, unwavering focus on his mission. He was willing to sacrifice everything for the handler behind him, a bond that few people will ever get to experience. His life after service was just as impactful. He went from a warrior to an ambassador, using his fame to create a legacy of care for his fellow K9 veterans through K9 Hurricane's Heroes. His journey from the White House lawn to the US Capitol and even to London to receive his many awards is a story of unparalleled achievement. Hurricane was, as his handler described him, a once-in-a-lifetime dog. He was ferocious and fearless in his duty, yet gentle and loving at home. He represents the very best of what a working dog can be, a perfect fusion of instinct and training, of animal strength and profound devotion. His name is now etched in history, not just as a deadly presidential guard dog, but as a true American hero who answered the call and never, ever gave up. If you were inspired by Hurricane's incredible story of bravery and loyalty, please consider subscribing for more content about the world's most heroic dogs. To honor Hurricane's legacy and support other retired heroes like him, please visit the K9 Hurricane's Heroes website. Every contribution helps provide vital medical care to retired law enforcement and military dogs who have dedicated their lives to serving us. Thank you for watching.